So welcome everybody. I want to thank you again for coming to United Way's ninth annual, but first ever virtual Power of the Purse. I want to thank Jack Soos, who's our co-host today, and welcome him. Jack's role is he's the Director of Achieving Competitive Excellence at Pratt Whitney. And so I want to welcome Jack. Jack's a longtime friend and volunteer with United Way, and I personally want to thank him for everything he does to support our United Way and our community, and welcome Jack to present.
Thanks, Liz, and hello to everyone. A lot of participants in this session, so thank you for your interest. Just as a reminder, logistically, this conversation will go about 20 minutes, and then Liz will provide us some information on how to transition over into the Power of the Purse event, which is on a different Zoom. So she'll share that at the end, so I'll make sure to wrap up a couple minutes early. I have some content to present, but really the topic is one for discussion for all of us, and really some sharing amongst the folks on the Zoom call. And the topic is leading in remote and remote work in virtual environments, and something that I think a lot of us are probably experiencing right now, maybe for the first time or maybe in a more intense way than we have in the past. So I'm going to share a little bit of information and background on myself and this topic, and then I've kind of outlined some topics of conversation and themes that are aligned with some research and data that's coming out recently regarding the experience and working from home or working in a remote way that so many people are experiencing right now. Quick introduction, and thank you, Liz, for getting us started. I'm at Pratt Whitney. We're headquartered in East Hartford, Connecticut. My office now is in my kitchen, which is sometimes a fantastic place to be. Other times, I realize I'm having like 6 or 7 meals throughout the day, and I'm about 14 steps from my bedroom. So a bit of no man's land right now. But I've been with Pratt 9 years. I am actually a fellow. I entered a fellowship recently with the Aspen Institute for 2020 and 2021. I'm part of their First Movers program, which is an entrepreneurship program focused on developing solutions to complex problems in the workplace, specifically my workplace for this fellowship. So I'm kind of recrafting the scope of that project right now, but one of the things that I'm going to be addressing as part of that program is the challenges of employer-supported childcare programs, not only at Pratt Whitney, but really across industries and companies. And that's something that maybe we can talk about today, since so many folks are balancing a lot of different things in the home work environment. I went to grad school at Drexel University in Philadelphia and have an undergrad in biochemistry and sociology at John Carroll. I actually started my career before Pratt. I worked in medicine. I was a tech in the Cleveland Clinic in the emergency department. So a little bit of background on me. I'm not going to go through my whole work experience, but 9 years at Pratt, spent time in the nonprofit world at the William Penn Foundation, worked in consulting with Liberty Business Strategies, and as I mentioned, in medicine at the Cleveland Clinic. My leadership philosophy, lead with curiosity, live with purpose, and laud or recognize others often. And I think a lot of us who lead teams or are part of teams have kind of the way that we go about working together, working with our folks, or leading the teams that we are supporting and supervising. And some of that philosophy has probably been challenged over the last couple of months as more of us find ourselves dealing with issues and team engagement and overall employee engagement through video and phone rather than maybe the face-to-face that we're used to. So I have 3 questions for today, and I have a slide on each of these with a little bit of data to kind of kick off the conversation and get us started. And those 3 questions are, how do we optimize virtual and remote teams, and what are we learning from COVID-19? What are we learning? Some of us maybe have been used to those environments, others have just been thrust into that situation. The second topic, and I will kind of facilitate the conversation and make sure we hit each of these before 12:25, is about talent breakthroughs in a familiar space and place. We're all used to some sort of digital engagement, probably more so in our personal lives than our work lives, So I want to talk a little bit about the skills that are more needed to be represented when we're talking about working in a digital environment. And finally, bridging the divide. How do we maintain or establish an inclusive team environment when we're working from home? You know, the walls between work and life have been gradually eroding, at least over the last 12, 14 years that I've been working. I'm sure much longer than that. But over the last couple months, those walls have been completely torn down for a lot of us. And how do we continue to be an inclusive organization, an inclusive workplace, and engage with our colleagues in informal ways when we find ourselves behind a computer screen most of the day? Okay. Let me go to the next slide. Okay, so optimizing virtual remote teams. What are we learning from COVID-19? And there's a lot of really good research out there, and on each of these slides I've suggested some reading. All of this is short, articles or opinion pieces, but things that have came out very recently and will guide some of this discussion, and encourage you to read more into each of these topics if you choose. And so 3 factors that we can ignore, and this goes well beyond the COVID-19 challenges that we face today, but really into virtual environments. The technology that we deal with, working across time zones, different geographies, and finally the structure of our teams. It's very challenging to multitask when you are in a virtual environment, let alone a physical one, if you're supporting multiple teams at once, getting pushed and pulled in different directions. So kind of a jumping off point for discussion, first, how has your work life changed since March? And how about your overall life as it relates to the workplace? And this is an opportunity for sharing. I'll kick off each of these questions with a very brief observation of my own, and then I'll turn it over to anyone on the phone who wants to share. And Liz, you can help us moderate if there's comments or questions that come through in the comment feed. We can all address those as well. So I had not worked remotely really ever. I traveled a lot for work, and I was in the office, and both of those things went to zero in the middle of March. And so, I've had to learn how to adapt, and I also said the same was true for my team. I've had to learn how to adapt with my team, both as a supervisor and member of the organization, in a way that maintains levels of productivity, but also recognized that we had to do things in a very different way. And those life changes also occurred. There's a lot of things that I like to do that balanced my work that I could no longer do. A lot of what we are able to access as a society has changed, at least in the recent past. So I want to open it up for dialogue on the phone. How has your work life changed, or how about your overall life in the last few months?
I'll jump in. So this is Jim. Excuse me. So, at the Hartford, I think virtually we've very accustomed to working remote. And what I'll say, like most companies, there's some areas that are totally remote, some areas that are totally butts in seat. I'm in an area in finance where, if you will, culture pre-COVID was probably predominantly more butts in seats. Folks were either in Hartford or in their site locations. And what was kind of interesting is when COVID happened, the Hartford, we've really actually made a ton of investments in our IT video conferencing technologies. But I tell you, one of the things I think that was kind of a godsend was our CEO made an investment in McKinsey's lean management system, which we call AKA the Hartford Way. Other companies in the area, have the system rolled out with other names. But I'll say one of the key kind of capabilities or tool sets that gets rolled out with that is to make sure that teams have routine huddles, if you will. So they don't matter whether you're in person or virtual. So we really didn't skip a beat. So teams that were used to, I'll say, getting together and communicating on a routine basis in the office, when we went remote, basically all that changed was they were in a Skype session opposed to sitting in a meeting room. So, I mean, we were very fortunate in that regards. In terms of work-life balance, if you will, I think surprisingly, and not just the Hartford, but many of my friends that work in the area, I tell you, it seems the trend is everybody's just busier. You know, you're close to work. And in all honesty, I'd love to, and it's not even that things are being pushed from down above. It's just everybody's busy, flat out busy. But I guess it's better than not being busy.
Mm-hmm. Other comments, reactions, opportunities to share your own experience?
Hi, it's Darlene from Hartford Healthcare, and I'm also fortunate enough to have all the technology that I need to be productive from home, so I was happy about that. And Hartford Healthcare too had invested in all the types of technology so that we could minimize the traveling to have meetings. So we have a variety of tools available to us. We do have the virtual meeting rooms, which our team has been using for a while, but we also use Skype. So because of this transition, I've had to like fast track myself into learning all the options of Skype, sharing via Skype. First, I really only used it for instant messaging before, but now I use it to share and present. And I also use it to make telephone calls through the Skype. I also was fortunate enough to be able to procure my own VMR with my own telephone number. And I thought about this a couple of weeks before we were working more remotely from home. And it was very helpful because I got to meet with all the customers and use my own VMR versus having to schedule the team VMR. So that's my experience at Hartford Healthcare. And I also have Dianette with me here.
Hi.
From HRA New
How you
Britain.
doing? For us,
Hi.
we've been working remotely. Actually, we've been working from home, and we developed a portal called Jot Form to do our virtual VITA. So all of our tax preparers are able to get their taxes done virtually. We do have a couple of people that are probably elderly that are not computer savvy, that are having a hard time uploading documents to the Jot Form, but for the most part, we've been working very well, and a lot of people are liking the Jot Form and doing their taxes virtually. So I think it's something that is going to be kind of like a new normal, that people are still going to probably come to the site when we're back open, but now they have another option that they could really do virtual VITA with their tax return as well. But so for us, we do have the equipment at home. We got provided with cell phones so we could, get in contact with our customers and clients and volunteers as well, and our tax volunteers. So I think it has worked very well working from home. I mean, again, it's a little getting used to because, your family's still here, your kids are running around. So you have to find a space that is like, okay, can I do my work? Because I'm still working, But other than that, it has worked out very well.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And we'll all have kind of opportunity to jump in. The next kind of question, kind of off of those topics, is what competency challenges are you seeing within your work teams and for yourself? And for me, I tend to find sources of my own intrinsic motivation through engagement with other people. And so, my adjustment has really been making sure that I'm leveraging video to its full capability. The first, couple weeks working remote, I was doing a lot via teleconference and phone, and I was just kind of disengaging myself in the conversations and really staying focused on video and using that full screen mode so you're not distracted by other things has really helped me. But opening it up again for comments, what challenges are you seeing in skill set and competency within your own teams as you find yourself in a remote work environment?
Jack, this is Crystal Gonzalez from the Hartford. One challenge, or actually two, that I've actually observed, my team had remote capabilities, and we, due to business resilience. And when we fully went remote, what I found was an impact to accountability, as well as engagement. And so I've been working on that and trying different techniques. But what I find is that it's very different when you're in the office and you can walk down a row and talk to folks at their desks and the way that they engage with each other than when they're at home, and we have to be very understanding of their situations at home. And so, folks have a lot of other things going on, and it's to balance that and still participate in the dialogue and bring value to the meetings. And with the video piece, which I also agree that's important, it's, we encourage folks to use the video, but we can't require them. There is different items that are going on. So those are the two areas that I have really been struggling with and made some progress, but look forward to making more as the remote will probably last all summer.
Thanks a lot, Crystal. Yeah, and I mentioned some of the preliminary data and statistics coming out now as folks have been working remotely more often. What some of the researchers are finding is the remote environment actually affects higher performers in a more intense way than lower performers within an organization. And the reason for that is higher performers tend to get their motivation off of those ad hoc, kind of above and beyond projects and engagements, things that they can go to their supervisor, to other teams on the side and really pitch in and help. And those informal engagements tend to disappear in a remote work setting where you don't have the water cooler talk, you don't have the ability to pop into other meetings or participate in other teams. So as supervisors, if you have teams, try to facilitate some ways for folks to get involved in other projects, other work, and learning experiences that may have disappeared over the last couple of months for them.
Just want to jump in for 1 second just to make a note to say there's lots of good chat going on, so please take a minute and look at the chat. People are sharing comments, and just give a 5-minute warning. Thanks.
Thanks, Liz. And this is the last slide and last question, so we'll pause here. And I think this might be the most important question for us to share amongst each other. And I encourage you to also look at the survey put out by Iometrics. It was published at the end of May, and it's a global work from home experience survey, specifically reflecting some of the COVID-19 impact on work. And it was a survey across industries, thousands of people participated. But the question is, what have you changed since you started working remotely in your life or in your work, and how's it going so far? And I'll open that up to anyone who'd like to share.
I've changed my involvement with my kids' schooling and just my involvement as a mom in general. I think the first month of this was extremely stressful, getting into the routine of homeschooling and working. But like anything, you eventually get into a groove. And now 3 months later, I'm in a groove. And I've definitely seen a positive impact on my kids having me home so often. So that's been really nice to see, and definitely a positive from all of this.
Great. Other comments, things that other folks have changed since we've started working remotely more often?
I would also share that, sort of making sure that elderly parents are still okay. My elderly parents are not in nursing homes, but they, still require, check-ins and making sure that everything is going okay, and ensuring that they're being careful when they go to the grocery store, and, all of those kinds of things. So it's sort of been figuring out, in what ways are the best ways to touch base without actually going to their house, and making sure that, their needs are being met, but that we're not introducing COVID into their, into their environment, and that kind of thing. So it's been sort of figuring it out over time, what's the best way to interface to make sure that they're, getting their needs met on a daily basis.
Thank you, Laura.
I would also just add really quickly, one thing that I think I've really changed being able to work from home during this time is taking some time for myself. And when I'm out there in the job world, you're constantly going, you're grabbing a bite to eat while you're working. Since I've been here doing this remotely, I was actually able to sort of force myself to get out there and take a quick walk, whether it was a 20-30 minute fresh air. So I think that's one of the things that have really changed.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. You know, and just as a reminder, there's some good conversation happening in the chat. We're running up on time, and I think we could talk about this for a long time, but I want to make sure everyone has opportunity to get into the Power of the Purse formal event. I'll share with you one piece of data that I found really interesting. I'm on one of the teams here at Pratt Whitney looking at our return to work strategy and our future office workplace strategy. And we've done a lot of survey among our employee population. And this data is not from our organization, but it's a much broader data set. The biggest concern that we're hearing from employees who may be finding themselves in a remote virtual work environment for a long period of time is the ability to progress their own careers because of the lack of visibility they have to their work, and or the lack of visibility others have to their work and contribution. So I think one of the biggest challenges we'll face culturally is how do we encourage others to grow and learn and contribute in ways that progress their own career when they may be working from home most of the time. And so just keep that in mind as you think about your own strategies and how you engage with your own teams. Liz, I want to turn it over to you, conscious of time, and how can folks join the session?
Thank you, Jack. And if anyone has any last comments, we do have a few minutes for that. I know, Bree, you had your hand up before, so I want to give you the opportunity to talk if you'd like, but I've just entered in a thank you to Jack. Jack, thanks as always. And the program will begin at 12:30 promptly. The link right here brings you back to the main page. If you scroll down, you'll see a link to the main event with Deborah Rosada Shaw. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. And we have a few minutes for any last minute comments.
Okay, thank you. It was really my pleasure to help facilitate this. I know this went really fast, and thank you, and encourage you to take a look at the work from home experience survey. I found a lot of value in that. It's very well done, and take care. Hopefully everyone is doing well, staying safe and healthy, and really good comment about checking in on your parents or the older folks in your lives who may be more affected by the current state than others. So thank you. Have a great day, and please enjoy the Power of the Purse program.
Thank you. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Everybody good? I'm just leaving this open until everyone's clicked over. Nice to see you, Laura. The link work okay for everybody? Were you able to get in? Okay. Thank you.
Hi, Liz, sorry.
Take care.
You too.